Over $2,000 for a synthesizer, groovebox. Is it really worth it? I'm going to check it. So probably the first thing you'll notice, it's pretty small and it's styrofoam packaging. I would expect a bit more at that price, but it's, it's eco-friendly, it's super light, and actually it feels like it really makes it safe. But then you take this in hand, and this is a beautiful piece of engineering. But there is only one tiny space I can fit it in, and it's here. Is it possible to replace the whole computer-based system and all those controllers with this unit? So can it be, as creative and as good sounding as the big system, the big computer, DAW-based system? And this is the real question. It's very tempting to have just one beautifully designed machine that can do it all. But can it do it all? So I started listening to some demos. This is what I usually do when I have something new. And I was surprised by how different they sounded. So on the one hand, you've got some experimental stuff, noisy and glitchy. On the other hand, you've got warm and beautifully sounding engines here. Also, the reverb seemed to be very, very high quality. So when you listen to those demos, you can realize that there is very little missing from the professional sounds you could hear on streaming platforms. So having good sounds, good kicks, good snares, you can actually get quite close. Maybe there is some kind of limiter or compressor missing, but you're close. So after listening to the unit, I wondered how come it sounds so clean and so transparent. And I looked the specifications up in the manual, and I found that actually the unit has the signal-to-noise ratio of 124 decibels. This is really cool because it's on par with the best audio interfaces out there. I guess my RME Babyface Pro FS had lower specs, so just under 100 decibels of signal-to-noise ratio on the inputs, but this is also more than sufficient, and you can always drag and drop your samples from your computer directly. Also, there is a new keyboard which is velocity sensitive. There is audio output, audio input, MIDI in and MIDI out slash sync output, and also you can plug in USB-C MIDI keyboard, and among those keyboards, for instance, you could have Arturia Minilab 3 or Keylab Essential. I just realized that even though I have a few MIDI keyboards in my studio, the only USB-C keyboard is this big guy here, Native Instruments KK88 Mark III. So I'm powering it up with one USB cable, and the other goes just here, okay? Quick disclaimer, this video is not sponsored, but I made a similar video which was sponsored for the Polish distributor of Teenage Engineering, and I guess I'm just trying, to be as honest as possible, presenting you my journey with this unit. Let's go. Okay, I'll be honest, when I first looked at the browser here, I thought, well, there are not too many sounds here. There are 9 categories, but when I tried to listen to them, I got excited. These basses sound really beefy. Yeah, there are lots of drum kits here, but there are more kind of experimental ones, I would say. So if you're looking like for bread and butter techno or house sounds, you have to look elsewhere or just fill it up with your sounds. Beautiful keys. They sound phenomenal in many different registers here. So pretty useful. Lots of leads. And special organ engine here. There are also pads. They sound very spacious and pretty lush to my ear. There is a plug section, snapshots, you can record yourself, and of course some strings. There's also a beautiful reverb. I guess it was the highlight of the previous Teenage Engineering OP field. So this sounds pretty lush, and it sounds great in the context too. Look. And there is also pitch bender. Let's talk about the engines. There are 8, plus the external MIDI engine to sequence and send signal outside. The first one is called AKAI. It's an FM synth and is basically used here to create strings. It sounds very lush. You can change the FM ratio. There is also shape of all the oscillators and tremolo available. And of course, the usual suspects, so the amp and filter envelope, some filtering, and some modulation. The second one is called Dissolve. It's actually great for creating noise leads and basses. They call it tonal noise synth because there is an amplitude modulation parameter, FM and detune, and swarm, which modulates modulators with noise. The third one is actually electric piano, and it has 4 macros as well. The first one is for the tone, texture, punch, and sound of the tines. And of course the usual suspects here, plus the effects. I'll skip the external or MIDI and let's talk about the hard sync. It's perfect for snubs, they say. Sounds nice. Next we have organs here. With different organ models, registers, and some tremolo. Nice. Prism is pretty surprising because it's really like a chameleon. Next one is called Simple. And actually it's quite lush sounding. If you get rid of the effects here, I'm pretty sure you can actually have some decent basses too with this engine. All you have to do, you have to get rid of the envelope and do some filtering here probably too, so that it sounds, yeah, pretty awesome now. Oh, sorry. The last one is called wavetable, and basically you can start very simple here, but you can also change the wavetables, warp them, drift them, and then play with the filters and envelopes to get interesting results. So one of the first things I wanted to check out is how many samples I can actually load from your computer. And it's pretty easy. You just have to connect your device here. You just go here, press COM and MPT, and then you'll see the OPXY appears here. So, well, you just have to click it and you'll see that there are 8 gigabytes and almost all is available to you. You just have to go to this folder, and then you can just drag and drop samples. I found out that you cannot create subfolders. Unfortunately, it's not possible, but you can just go and drag and drop samples. So I'll just go and do it like this, and it's a pretty painless process, and even big libraries can be copied quite quickly. Okay, guys, so I have to be honest with you. We actually spent quite a lot of time trying to figure out how it works. And why is that? Even though I have tested this OP1 and OP1 field in the past, I had to relearn it like from the beginning. So I just opened up the manual and went through all the settings. Because actually when you look at it like this, you'll see that there is additional row of buttons here comparing to OP1. And actually there are lots of functionalities hidden under the shift functionalities, lots of new players, there's a new pattern mode, so I'll explain it to you just making some music maybe. So look, I'm going to start with an empty project. By default I have 2 drum kits available. I'll tell you why there are 2 drum kits later. The other slots are filled with the onboard instruments. Some of them are sampled, so I can immediately start recording. I'm going to just check the metronome. The setting are right, the metronome is on, so let me play. And I just recorded my first melody. And now using the buttons in the bottom row, I can process each step with so-called step components. First I'm choosing the steps, then I'm choosing the effect. It can be a ramp, it can be a random, it can be portamento, and then I'm choosing the intensity by the numbers. Let me add some portamento and bending. So when I get into the flow and start experimenting with those step effects, I can really get some interesting kind of random but not too random effects that are really musical. And of course you can use macros. And record those macros to further enhance your sequence. You can also record envelope moves, so shorten the attack or the decay. And the same applies to the filters that can be modulated in real time. And there is also a simple arpeggiator and a chord module, so you can record one chord and transpose it. So I feel confident enough now to start a new sequence, so I'm going to delete this. I'm checking the metronome settings. I press and hold record and then press play so I can record. But this way I could only record one bar sequence, so I will delete this one and record a new one. So I am pressing the bar button and then plus to make it 4 bar long. As you can see, here I have additional quantization, length and groove settings. So I'm going to start over with the 4 bar sequence. So now I have time for some kind of strings or pads, so I'm just recording it. And let me make the 4 bar loop and I'll start again. The total polyphony is 24 voices and they are split between the instruments automatically unless you tell each instrument specifically how many voices it can use. So I guess it's more than enough, and now I'm going to record the bass by just program it using the step sequencer. Now I am going to switch to the mixer so I can change the volumes, panorama, or I can also add some sound effects like delay or reverb. And now I'm going to turn the metronome off. And now the real fun starts because I can make almost as many scenes and sequences as I like. The limit is 99 scenes. They can consist of different patterns for different tracks. There are 9 patterns per track available. I only have now one scene, but it's easy to make new ones just by duplicating and copying and pasting and recording new ones. By default, each scene is the same unless I make any changes, so I record a new one, I delete it, and etc. So let me show you how to make a new bass scene. I just click new or copy and paste, and I've got a new pattern for this track. I can add some automation, so I'm going to mute other elements so you can hear clearly what I'm doing, and I'm just doing some micro adjustments. So this way I created a totally different bass, and that way I could go on and create new scenes by copying, pasting, modifying them, and once I reach the limit of 99 scenes I can go and create a song using different combinations of scenes, but I'm going to show you that later. A quick side note, I actually realized there is a limit to how many patterns you can have. You can have only 9 patterns per track. However, each pattern can be up to 16 4-steps, and I read somewhere that you can actually make it shorter, so polyrhythms can be created. It's pretty powerful, and you can have up to 99 scenes in each project. And this component stuff is really mind-blowing. Look at the chart here. There are 14 step components, and each step can be polluted with up to 14 component manipulations. So this is pretty cool, and there is more. It's not only the sequencer that makes OPXY special, there are also very cool auxiliary effects, so the auxiliary mode, and it holds 8 aux tracks, and effects range from some audio effects, the brain, and there are effects, sands, and there are punch-in effects like from the KO2. Let's start with the brain. The brain recognizes the tonality and sets the key. We can now create a sequence for the brain track and change the tonality. So now by pressing different keys I will transpose all tracks except for the drums, but actually all sounds are within the set scale. And this transpose effect can work only for selected patterns or scenes, if you like. I am now switching to the first scene, and I will disconnect the brain from it. Now the first scene is being played without transposing, and the second one uses brain. Same goes for the punching effects, and there are lots of them. Some of them can be used to process percussion tracks, some melodic tracks. And of course, all we do here can be recorded onto a track. I just set a 4-bar sequence for that. Okay guys, I struggled a little bit with the tape effect, so I had to delete it, and now I think I know how to use it. So let's have a look. Actually, there is a special tape track, track number 6, and you can, just play some small parts of different tracks routed into the tape. So by pressing 1, 2, 3, 4 and subsequent numbers, you can just play different parts of your sequence. But you can change the loop speed too. The pitch can be adjusted in real time. Still not sure, but I couldn't find a way to record those changes fluidly. But I can change the speed by rotating the mid-grain knob, and that way I can have more range of pitch modulation. I can use it as a parallel effect, so I set the mix knob to 60%. So in this example, I'm using tape as sort of additional layer, and I can record this layer on the tape track. It sounds pretty interesting to my ear. However, at some point I felt a little bit restricted without the proper MIDI keyboard, so I decided I will connect. Actually, this is the only one I can connect, but remember, you can also use a Bluetooth MIDI keyboard and it should work just great. So I'll just start with a new blank project. I'm setting the tempo to 90 beats per minute because I intend to record some more laid-back hip-hop stuff maybe. I'm setting the length to 4 bars, and I can go and record my chords now. And I think I'm going to change the instrument for another one. So in the electric piano section, there's a beautiful sampled one. Time for some bass. Yeah, I really like that one. It's a brassy bass. And of course, I'm going to record a 4-bar sequence. And I'm thinking of the sounds that will fit, and I can just start. And I think the easiest way is to clear the pattern when you make a mistake is just go to the pattern mode and press clear, and I'm recording one more time. Yeah, this sounds nice. Let's add some drums now. And I think 1 bar will be enough for a start. And for the next part, I'm going to use the arpeggiator. And I think I'll go for some short sound. This sounds nice, but I think I really need some more plucky sound. Oh, maybe that one. Yeah, the arpeggiator is very straightforward, nothing complicated here. And I can change the way the arpeggiator works any moment, but I couldn't find a way to record those changes, which would be really cool if it was possible. You must admit it sounds kind of hypnotizing. And I'll just add one more layer. Let me look for some kind of funky sound. Let me search in the context of the music. Sounds very 80s. It kind of reminiscens me of the Tony tone. Yeah. There is also a sampler, so you can record some phrases using the onboard microphone. The quality is fine. It's not a studio quality, of course, but you can record short voice phrases. You just have to set the threshold, and then you choose a pad on which you like to record, and then you press record. Woo! Yeah, sorry about that. I forgot to press record button. So you're choosing a pad, then you press record. Woo! And that's basically it. My sample has been already recorded. And now I'll record one more. That sounds pretty cool too.
Just chilling.
And then you can go and change the volume settings or the panorama. But there are not really too much you can do. But when you add some delay and other effects, it can sound pretty interesting.
I'm just chilling.
Unfortunately, there is no offline processing. There are no insert effects except for the filter and some modulation. So you have to go to the mixer and add some reverb using a synth.
I'm just chilling.
So I can either, boost the volume of the whole set or go and tweak individual samples. So sample editing is pretty limited. You can only change some envelope settings, filter settings, and transpose it.
I'm just chilling.
Still, it sounds pretty nice.
I'm just chilling.
So now I can go on and create some variations of this scene. So you can do that by copy and pasting, so by effectively duplicating the stuff you recorded, or you can just create new scenes and assign them to a new scene, so they will be empty unless you record something else. And that way you can create, classic variations with some percussion, with no percussion, with the kick, without the kick, etc. So I'm just creating a new scene. I am duplicating some stuff, and this is how it sounds.
I'm just chilling. I'm just chilling.
So my first sequence is the main one, and the second one is an intro sequence. In the mixer mode, you can change volume settings, panorama settings, you can add some delay or reverb, but you also have a global EQ and a saturator and a nice working kind of VCA style compressor.
I'm just chilling. I'm just chilling. I'm just chilling. I'm just chilling.
And of course, the nice thing about pattern style programming is that you can have almost limitless combinations of scenes in a song, and song can be really long. So you not only have 99 scenes here, you can easily switch, but also you've got the song mode, and you just decide which patterns are play in which direction. So you can just make different combinations like this, and then it will just play as you program it. And then you can just focus on maybe some modulation and other stuff. So it's pretty nice, yeah.
I'm just chilling.
So how does sampling work? Actually, I quickly realized that this unit is much more powerful than previous models, because in OP1 and OP1 field, I guess you would have to load one long sample into the drum instrument, and then it got divided into up to 24 smaller pieces, individual drum hits, if you like. And now you can load up to 24 separate samples onto the unit, and each can be up to 20 seconds long. So pretty powerful. And in theory, you could have 8 drum instruments loaded here. So multiplied 8 by 24, pretty powerful. However, I guess you would hit the memory limit much quicker, because it's 64 megabytes of internal memory. I'll put an inscription if I'm wrong, or correct me in the comments. Anyway, I decided to put some longer samples here, like this. And I set it the way that I have to hold the buttons, so because this is the most reasonable solution. I will open the filter now, and I guess I'll start with recording some sequences that will be 2 bar long. All right, so this is my first sequence, and now I'm going to record a second one. Yeah, maybe here. All right. Okay, and now I can easily switch between them. It's also possible to record automation, but automation is per step. So it's kind of step automation, but it works. I have to hold this button for it. And yeah, let's go. However, I don't know if you noticed, but all drums are filtered. So all loops are filtered, and the filter and the envelope works for the whole drum instrument. And I guess that is why by default you have two drum instruments loaded, because if you want to have like a longer attack and make some shakers and mild hi-hats and other stuff with some filtering and longer attack, then you'll have to use other drum instrument for kicks and more transient material. So I guess it's a pretty big limitation that you cannot do it per sample. And also samples does not get do not get stretched, so there's no time stretching, so you have to set the tempo right and not change it. Of course you can use some pitch to adjust it, but it's kind of not the perfect way, to be honest, and it could work only with some percussion with no pitch to it, like snares or something. Sorry, snares are also noise based, but basically hi-hats mostly. uh, Anyway, conclusion is that I would use this instrument more like an instrument and not as a loop-based instrument, because there are lots of limitations here. I guess I would use the the longer samples to load some longer effects like swooshes, risers, fallers, maybe some textures, but not really percussion loops. But this is just me. I've got some important information for those of you who prefer to make sample-based music. It's pretty easy to swap samples. You just have to press Shift and the button in the upper right corner. Then you enter the browser and you can browse the whole factory library, which is not big, but very good quality. However, the user catalog cannot be divided into subcategories. You cannot create subfolders. So if you've got 1000 or 2000 samples, scrolling to find clap or snare may take up to several seconds. So it's a bummer, and it limits the number of samples you can actually use. And be careful not to upload to the drive samples longer than 20 seconds, because while scrolling, the unit may just freeze and not be able to load any more samples. So I guess that's about it. So XY can be advertised as a music production system in a small, pocket-size package. It's manufactured absolutely to the highest standard. It's beautiful, and also it's very, playful. The playability factor is high for this unit. You can take it everywhere, and I guess it's part of its appeal. Also, the operating system is very well designed. The way you can create patterns, copy patterns, make scenes and songs, it's very effective. At the same time, it's quite complex, so as a non-user, because I don't own any of the Teenage Engineering devices, I had to spend like 2 days to wrap my head around it. So I guess you can spend weeks discovering complexities and functions hidden within this unit, so that's pretty cool. The onboard synthesizers are really great. I find basses, pads and leads sound very warm, musical, detailed, and just very, very smooth at the same time. So very, very musical. At times I thought I was playing with analog synthesizer, especially with leads. Very, very nice. However, it may be hard to obtain certain sounds. If you're thinking of hard drum and bass, those, distorted basses, I don't think you'll be able to get this out of this small box. On the other hand, if you're thinking liquid bass, then pads and those subs will work wonders. And of course, you can load your own drums and you should be fine. So I guess this unit is more into the direction of the mellow sound, dreamy and ambient, maybe lo-fi hip-hop, maybe liquid drum bass and other stuff. It's not really for loops, so if you're planning on making loop-based music, it's rather not for you. And also there are some limitations when it comes to sampling, which I don't like, because the envelopes and filters are per whole drum kit. That's why you usually start with 2 drum kits, at least by default. But in general, the sound of the unit is very good, very cool, though I think that professionals will miss some more insert effects. There are none really, and yeah, so the effects wise it's pretty limited too. Also, there is no time stretching, so if you're thinking loop-based music, I think AKAI or Maschine Plus would be a better choice. But I have to say that the sequencer is truly impressive. You can create polyrhythms, you can set different speed at which the sequences are played. So there is an arpeggiator, there's a chord memory. Although it could be more complex, it just works. And also there are lots of those tiny effects like step components. There is a brain which allows you to change the tonality of your pattern, mid pattern. You can record it, and yeah, it's pretty cool actually. So once you dig into that, you quickly realize that there are lots of things to be discovered, to be made, and it sounds pretty cool. And also we can use it with the MIDI keyboard, like Bluetooth wireless keyboard. You can plug in an audio interface to that. So there are lots of possibilities to expand it, and yet it is so small, so it's part of its appeal that you can take it anywhere. So is it something for professionals? Well, if you already have several analog synthesizers or digital synthesizers, doesn't matter, and you're proficient in making music within a DAW, DAW of your choice, I don't really think you need it. Also, I think XY lost a bit of its appeal comparing to OP1 feel, because I just loved this experience of recording on tape and being able to tweak everything, and that it was final. It was something special because it led to some interesting results. However, I think this one is really something for people who are just starting out or are intermediate, that just don't want to fiddle with their mouse all the time. They want something very portable and yet quite powerful, so they can make sketches, they can discover new territories, because it's very enjoyable, it's really immediate. You can tap rhythms, you can play, and you can take it everywhere. There are lots of limitations as far as sampler is concerned, but actually still you can make quite decent sounding music and develop your ideas. So it's like a creative boost, or maybe it's for people who need one more synthesizer when playing live, like for DJs, for people playing live, and because the synthesizers sound great and the reverb is also amazing. So I guess it's a mixed bag, but still it's kind of impressive.